It's pretty rare that I see a movie that's so abominable, so atrocious that I actually feel embarrassed for even having wasted my time watching it. And that phenomenon just happened with the new horror film Tarot. I was squirming in my seat. I was getting so mad at what I was watching. I was steaming. My body performed an involuntary gesture of shaking my fist. Actually got him with a why I oughta. I was fuming. I started fucking Fortnite emoting in anger. That's how bad this movie was. So it's got a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, which sounds about right. And I knew going into it was going to be irredeemable garbage because it is written and directed by one of the three writers of Moonfall. I sing the praises of Moonfall at least once every couple months. It is one of my favorite films of all time because it is objectively one of the most dog shit films ever produced, but in the most entertaining way possible. I think it is a masterpiece disaster of a film. It is so trash that it becomes immaculate. So I love Moonfall, and Spencer Cohen, who helped write Moonfall, wrote and directed Tarot. So I knew this had no chance of being good. But I didn't expect it to be this bad, like mind-numbingly bad, in a way that sucked all of the joy out of the room. Watching this film was like a Dementor sucking my soul out for the entire hour and a half that it played. Now, of course, it was basically an empty auditorium because no one cares about this movie. No one's really, fucking jumping out of their seats to be first in line for tickets to Tarot. But it was a pretty much empty theater. And man, I was embarrassed to just be there watching it. And it was painfully obvious that all of the actors in the movie were embarrassed to be there as well. It seemed like they were ashamed that they accepted the paycheck to appear in Tarot. None of them tried at all. Especially Jacob Batalon. You probably know him as Ned in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's in this film, and oh my god, it felt like he was giving the most sarcastic performance ever. Like, all the material he was given to work with is all really shittily written, but he took it and made it like a complete flat joke throughout the entire film in a way that I think was him just giving like a subtle wink and a nod to the audience that he knows that this is a bad movie he's in. To give you an example of what I mean, Jacob, while he's being hunted by the scary clown, is trapped in an elevator and the clown's doing his like scary routine, which ends up kind of looking like it was more of like a flash mob that the clown was doing. It wasn't even scary. It just went on for so long of him doing different bad dance moves. It's like it was trying to mimic my choreography that they see me bust out at the club, which is horrifying, no doubt. But here, in this context, man, it is so stupid and goofy. So the clown's doing all that choreography as the elevator doors are closing and opening, and Jacob's character is just going, ah, 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 almost exactly like that, until eventually the clown ambushes him and he goes, ah. He just couldn't even be bothered to pretend to care at all about the performance. Like, unironically, Matt and I's acting in our green screen merch shoots is better than anything you'll find in Tarot. And I really think that's because the actors were probably so deflated once they got the material to work with, they were probably like, oh boy. Oh, brother, this guy stinks. Damn it, Steven, you've swindled me into this one. But they've already signed the contract, so now they have to commit and continue. So anyway, let's get into like the meat of the movie. It's about as generic as you will ever see in the horror movie genre. And I mean that in the truest sense of the word generic. It literally starts with them at an Airbnb, just as like a group of college friends just doing a getaway. We know nothing about these characters, only that one of them has a birthday and now they're at this haunted little Airbnb. And they happen to find this box of tarot cards, and our main character is really big into astrology. So she does this tarot card reading for the entire group using these really creepy cards that are hand-painted tarot cards, and she goes through all their signs, like, oh, you're a Capricorn, you're a, Leo, so this, that, and she gives them all their horoscope readings. And I really feel like Steven, or whoever helped them with this movie, must just be big into TikTok astrology, because it just starts borrowing a lot of things TikTok astrology enthusiasts are always talking about that's just very silly stuff, like, if you use someone else's tarot cards, oh boy howdy, you better brace for a bad time. Or, the most powerful combination of divination is using tarot card readings on top of I already forgot, a wet blanket. I forgot what the other thing was. But they mentioned that multiple times, like, doing tarot readings on top of blank is the most powerful form of divination, not to be taken lightly, type shit. So it feels like this was made for TikTok Zoomers almost. But even they, I think, are going to be extraordinarily bored by this film because it is not scary and it's just really, really dumb. I think these are the stupidest characters I have ever seen in a horror film, and I do not say that lightly, especially with horror films like Wish Upon and Slender Man. I think the characters in this movie are even stupider, if you can believe that. Now anyway, she gives everyone their horoscope readings, and it turns out that the deck is cursed. There was, back in the 1700s, a woman who was wronged and decided to place a curse upon those tarot cards where she took her own life, and now anyone that uses those tarot cards and does a horoscope will be cursed and die from it. So the horoscope readings that she was giving are starting to come true in twisted ways. So for example, one of the readings was, you'll make some money, your financial situation will improve, but then don't follow the hermit because he might lead you down the wrong track. And it turns out he gets visited by the hermit after winning $700 from a lottery scratch-off, and the hermit starts chasing him around the subway station until eventually he falls onto some train tracks and gets hit by a train. So it's like the worst diet Final Destination concept imaginable. So now they're all being hunted by their horoscope here, and they're getting killed by it, and it's so underwhelming. Oh my god, it is pitiful, the attempts that they try and make here to scare the audience. Like, there's a couple of jump scare attempts, but I feel like maybe that was like a little icky for Spencer, so he's like, no, that's too loud, that frightened me. Tone that down a bit. So not even the jump scares are enough to frighten or startle anyone, because they're not even like loud or anything, and they're not even like startling, as weird as that is to say. For example, one of their jump scare attempts, they have one of the evil creatures lurking, and he pokes his head out in front of where this girl was hiding, but it's like completely muted. It's like super muted. So it's like in slow motion. And I know it's supposed to be a jump scare because then it kicks on the music right after that happens. But like it completely missed the timing of the jump scare. And that can be said about a lot of things in this movie. So Jacob's character, his name is Paxton. He's supposed to be the comic relief character, and he draws the Fool card, so that's why he gets hunted down by the evil clown. And his jokes are the worst timed jokes ever. Like, the comedic timing in this film is non-existent. Like, anytime Paxton is going to make a joke where he's like, yo, you guys are fucking, I gotta go, well, I can't think of anything he said, actually. That's about par for the course for Taro. Just had myself a Jimmy Neutron brain blast. I remember one of his jokes was, as they're doing the tarot card readings, she's asking, who wants to come up next? And he goes, I'll go to the bathroom, and then walks by her. And like, that's like the timing of that scene right there. It's so bad. And then like the whole group laughs at him like, Paxton, you got her. Oh, fried. Nice. Like, that's the level of humor they try and insert in here. It sucks. It super sucks. Oh my god. Like, everything in this movie fails. Like, all of it falls so flat on its fucking face. It's almost impressive how they couldn't even accidentally get something as simple as a jump scare right. So anyway, let's talk about why I actually started getting heated, because usually these kind of things I'd find to be like fun bad and maybe even a little bit charming, but this one was actually just making me upset. So they figure out early on that those tarot card readings that were done is most likely what's killing them. So like, the birthday girl dies, she falls off a ladder after her prediction was she climbs a ladder, but be careful because there might be a crushing blow from the high priestess to, do this and that, and she dies by falling off the ladder. And then the high priestess, which looks like some kind of Party City costume that was trying to emulate like the nurse from Dead by Daylight, comes out and starts hitting her with a ladder, and she dies. And then after that was the guy who got hit by the train from the hermit, and they're like, oh, that's interesting, they're all dying kind of the same way the horoscopes said. Weird. That's probably the cause. And all of them except for one guy immediately buy into it, but they still go and visit like this old lady who they found through a Google search. The most stereotypical horror movie cliche ever. Just like a random old lady who is just the exposition vomiter. She just is present because the writer wasn't able to figure out a way to convey this story in a way that made sense. That they just have this random character that knows everything, so she explains to them and the audience exactly what's going on. And all the characters confirm, like, okay, that's 100% what's going on. Now we know. So in the readings, she kind of says, like, what you need to do to avoid being killed. Like, maybe don't follow the hermit's light because it might lead you down the wrong track. So basically it would be, all right, don't let that light scare you and lead you in different directions, and he wouldn't have fallen onto the train track, that kind of thing. So they all know this now. It's the horoscopes. And they're all very well aware of what their predictions were what her predictions were because one of the girls actually filmed her prediction. And their car breaks down, and the prediction was, technology might stop working, but don't be alarmed, just sit tight. There's no reason to run away because else you might find yourself hanging. That kind of thing. Her card was the hangman. So the car breaks down on this bridge, and the girl is remembering, like, oh, okay, I need to not panic and I need to not run away. But then, like, on, like, the glass, the hangman draws a hangman, and she's like, ah! Opens the door and starts running. The thing that they just reminded her, and herself reminded herself of, to not run, she immediately does in this inexplicable panic. When what was just established seconds prior is to just sit tight and wait it out. And then she just fucking freaks out, starts running, and then ends up getting caught by the hangman and hangs. And then, even after that, Paxton, who now knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that all he needs to do to survive is to not do what the horoscopes said. And his horoscope was, don't be bullheaded and make rash decisions. And then after that hanging thing, the group gets together and he's like, I'm gonna go back to the apartment, fuck you guys, this is very, well, it's PG-13, he doesn't say fuck you guys, he's like, poopy to you guys, this is a bunch of baloney, I'm not gonna be caught, out and about, because it puts me at risk, so I'm gonna go back to the apartment. They're like, no, listen, Paxton, you're being bullheaded, that means you're gonna die if you go through with this, you are being bullheaded, remember with the horoscope reading? And he's like, patooey, I'm going this way. I'm gonna be bullheaded. You don't know what you're talking about. Even though, minutes ago, he just witnessed what happened when it's crazy. It's actually crazy. It's like every character here is like Drew Barrymore in 50 First Dates. They just keep forgetting things that have just happened. So, he goes being bullheaded, and what do you know? He gets attacked by the evil clown, the Fool. I actually was so mad. I had no reason to be as mad as I was, but it really felt like Spencer himself was just giving the middle finger to the whole auditorium, like, you guys are stupid for paying money for this, ha ha ha. Like, he was the ultimate evil tarot card slapped on the table here. Like, we just saw these characters describe in detail exactly what not to do, and then two characters do exactly what both of them said they will not do immediately. One of them, I guess you could write off because they got really afraid and frightened, so they stopped thinking rationally. I think that's a lame excuse for it. But Paxton, he was cool, calm, and collected, and then still just said, alright, I'm gonna go die anyway. Like, what? Huh? Like, there's so many things I could really pick apart here, but who gives a fuck? No one's seeing this movie anyway. I know none of you watching this had any interest in it, but man, this one is actually worse than Imaginary and Night Swim. I didn't think we'd find any horror movies for the rest of the year that would compete with those, but man, this one does it. This one actually does it. It is worse than both of those films. Leave it to one of the Moonfall writers to strike a new low in the horror genre of all things. I didn't even know it was possible. But I will talk about one more thing in the movie, because it was another thing that just got me heated. So that old woman that I mentioned earlier, well, eventually the crew goes back to that house to get the tarot cards, because they eventually deduce that, hey, if we destroy the tarot cards, we probably break the curse. So they go there, get the cards, try and burn the cards don't burn. They're like, oh! They do like a fucking Mr. Beast thumbnail shock. And they're like, okay, let's call the old woman. Which, I guess that's a fine idea. But you know what happened like 30 minutes before that? They tried to call that old woman, and it turns out her phone doesn't work. Like, it just goes straight to voicemail because her phone doesn't exist anymore, which is why they drove to her fucking house and snuck up on her in the middle of the night, because she doesn't have a phone that works. Yet somehow, during this moment, not only were they able to call that old woman with a phone that didn't exist or didn't work, but she shows up instantly. She literally Goku instant transmissions to the front door there in a matter of seconds, even though it took them like an entire day to drive themselves to her previously. Like, this is just such a poorly made movie from top to bottom. Nobody gave a shit at all. Like, I don't know what you were thinking with this one, Spencer. I really don't. Moonfall is a beautiful disaster. This one is a tragic disaster. It's so shit. So the old woman shows up, and I'm like, okay, she's going to be like really helpful here. She's going to be instrumental. So she sets up like this ritual where she was going to reverse the tarot card readings to try and flip it on the evil entity the old woman who was wronged and cursed the deck. And as she's doing it, the old woman immediately just gets possessed, like she gets force choked by the evil entity and then stabbed with 6 swords. Because the evil entity did a tarot card reading on her where she drew the 6 swords card, whatever the fuck that is. And she's like, uh-oh, whoops-a-daisy. So then literally force grabbed and then drops her corpse with 6 swords in it in the middle of like the hallway. And that was the entire role of the old woman. That's it. She showed up just to get stabbed 6 times and contribute nothing. So eventually our main character's like, what if I get a horoscope reading for the evil entity? And like, yeah, that kind of makes sense if you turn your brain off. Why would that work? It's her tarot cards. She is the curse. If she doesn't want to curse herself, she won't. It doesn't matter if you do a horoscope reading. She is the tarot cards. But anyway, she does this reading on the evil entity, and she draws death as the final card. And the entity looks down, I shit you not, as she's strangling the main character. She looks down and goes... and then immediately just gets fucking deatomized. So somehow her reading also killed her, even though she is the reading. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And it's even more criminally trash with the way that it wraps itself up, because it turns out Paxton didn't die. So Paxton cruises up in his car in the middle of the night after they defeat the evil entity by giving her a horoscope reading. And he's like, hey guys, I'm like actually totally fine. I was trying to reach you guys. You guys weren't answering. What's up with that? And they're like, how did you survive? And he's like, oh yeah, my roommate opened the elevator door and like scared the jester away. He thought it was like super weird. He was like really wondering what was going on with me. Like, okay, so that's how you beat it? Like, you could just have your roommate come up and like throw the whole thing into disarray? Like, it's all cattywampus? Like, the whole curse doesn't work if there's a witness to it all of a sudden? Like, what? That seems like the easiest thing to do. Like, you probably wouldn't even need to turn the curse around on the evil entity. You could just have his goofy-ass roommate follow you around and save you every time. It's just so dumb. The movie was so fucking bad. Oh, I can't wait to see what else Spencer works on, because man, he's got a really incredible batting average here with terrible trash movies. Anyway, I think 5% for this movie is about what I'd give it on the Moist Meter too. I have to agree with Rotten Tomatoes on this one. 5% for Tarot, absolutely accurate. What a bad film. That's about it. See ya.